So superfoods, one thing that's amazing about them is that instantly they balance your blood sugar. Instantly they inhibit that hyperinsulin response. Does everyone know about insulin? Insulin's a type of hormone. Basically what insulin does is it's a hormone that gets secreted from the pancreas that goes in to scoop up sugar out of the bloodstream and put it into the receptor sites, the insulin receptor sites, and convert it into ATP, energy, metabolic energy, right? Now we do need some kind of glucose, some kind of sugar for energy production, but we don't need as much as we've been led to believe. Even a lot of the raw foodists out there, the hyper like fruitarians, 80-10-10, they're you see what happens with some of them is that they do the high sugar for the low fat, high sugar thing over and over and over. One thing I notice is behavioral disturbances. It's very, to me, in my perspective and what I'm paying attention to, I don't care what your six-pack abs, that's nothing to me. I grew up in the athletic culture. Trust me, that has nothing to do with health as far as I'm concerned. What I'm looking at is your ability to articulate something, your communication, emotional stability, neurological balance. And I've noticed the more sugar people do typically, those faculties are inhibited. They're disturbed. Anger issues, even passivity, passivity. Thank you. Yes. High, like almost like alkalosis effects, too alkaline, too spacey, too up in the clouds, not grounded. Minerals ground us. That's why if you're going to do a raw food approach, here's a good example as we move forward here. One thing that happens when people go on to a high raw food diet or they go into like vegan diet from a meat-based diet, one thing is you got to understand is that your mineral content is what's going to anchor you into your nutritional approach. If you go swinging off the deep end on some demineralized nutrition approach like these high fruit diets it's basically a shopping mart diet. You can't come out here and do that the same way. You're not eating 30 bananas a day. Sorry, not going to happen. These bananas are different than the Cavendish hyper-cloned, genetically engineered bananas that we have in the supermarket that are actually environmental catastrophe. The number one karmically destructive food, in my opinion, well, the two are soy and bananas, conventional bananas. Just to put that out there, I can explain that to the depth later on, what's going on in the rainforest and the indigenous Amazonian environments just for growing these Cavendish cloned, Petri dish cloned bananas. Bananas here are good. These are natural. These are like heirloom, original variety food. That's why when you eat one, you're like, oh, I'm full. You can't eat 30 of them. Doesn't work, right? Okay, great. So superfoods essentially are foods that have the most historical usage, the most ethnobotanical usage. The word ethnobotany refers to botany, botanical, the study of plants. Ethnicity, culture, the cultural study of how a plant has been used in a culture, right? So ethnobotanical study, meaning that these foods have been around for a long time. They've been around a lot longer than Pop-Tarts, right? They have a track record. And so the foods that we're going to go into, I think I categorize like the 10 top superfoods in my opinion, and the most easily accessible that you can easily just like, oh, I can just jump and take action on that right away. We're going to go upside down, backwards, front flip, back flip, side. Turmeric, as it is. So this is a type of root that I've been getting way more into lately. I've been into it for a while, but I hadn't really jumped full on into it. It was kind of super common, so I didn't even like really go too deep into it until as of recently, and it's really just the new research on turmeric is amazing. It's a root that comes from India specifically, and they use it in all their culinary dishes. Everything, like ghee and turmeric are like their number one thing, right? And there's a cleverness actually behind that combination. A lot of people are doing their juicing turmeric, which is great for the anti-inflammatory compounds. They are putting it in their stews or their broths, stuff like that. You know, they're even making little teas out of it. Now, it turns out that if you want to get the maximum benefit of this, you actually have to do it a very specific way. It's kind of the alchemical secret, is that you can't just bite on it and chew on it, right? That's one thing. But even juicing it is only getting you a fraction of its ability. It actually has to be delivered in a form of fat in order to deliver the fat-soluble nutrients. So we hear about curcumin, curcuminoids. That is like the anti-cancer. That's like the hyper anti-inflammatory compounds that are present in turmeric, and they're fat-soluble. This is an important thing about nutrition. It's an important nuance. Certain nutrients are fat-soluble, some are water-soluble. Everyone know about a tincture? Like herbal tinctures? The intelligence behind that is that in all herbs, there's water-soluble elements which you would brew up, you would decoct, that's the proper term, you would decoct in a tea. And then through that, those nutrients disperse and can be transported through water. That's a tea, right? Then you have a tincture where you extract out or you dissolve the fat or lipid-soluble properties, right? So a good example would be Chaga mushroom. Chaga mushroom is one of the famous medicinal mushrooms, and if you want to get the full benefit, you actually have to do both. You actually have to do a water decoction, a hot tea, because that's where you're going to get all the immunological properties that support your immune system, right? But then the alcohol takes out the fat-soluble fractions, which are the antiviral and bacterial and super anti-infectious, like really immediately medicinal properties of that herb. Does that make sense? So you do those kind of things together. That's the intelligence of these different preparation methods. Now with turmeric, there's some interesting technologies that have been discovered about how to transport these nutrients. There's a product right there called Synchrogenesis, and that was created by my friend Graham Ryan from the Bay Area. And that is the most powerful turmeric product I've ever come across. And I've gone through bottles and bottles of this. And my first experience with this specifically was that I stayed up all night. I did a little bit of an experiment, a little bit of a mind-altering experiment one night. And I was up all night. And so my sleep cycle was totally wiped out for like 2 days. And I was like, one morning I woke up, I'm like, oh God, like I was just kind of foggy, kind of like recuperating from it. And I found this in the fridge and I just swigged it real quick, like a shot glass full. And within a couple minutes, that brain fog went away and I felt like clear again. I was like, whoa, okay, something's here. And then I went back and researched this even more, and it was astounding. So basically what this product is doing is taking advantage of all the information we have on this superfood, is that those curcumins that oppose inflammation, that support joint cartilage tissue repair, that support heart cardiovascular protection, and also that support neurogenic or neurogenesis, which is the regeneration of your brain cells, which is a whole nother area I love to kind of get into. But basically the simple idea is that our brain can regenerate itself. It's called neurogenesis, but we have to give it some kind of raw material, some supporting materials for it to do that. And that's kind of what I felt like I was experiencing. It was like hyper anti-inflammation, wiping out that inflammatory response, and then I was just like, whoa, I feel clear, I feel more on it, boom, everything's good again. And basically what they found out is that when you deliver it through fat, it transmits into the body. It transports into the body more effectively than if you just juice it. Now you could juice it theoretically and put like olive oil in it, maybe put like a little avocado oil or doing a green smoothie, whatever you want to do. But this product right here is a very sophisticated and calculated way that works, for sure. I know, I can tell you right now, this actually works, right? And this is, yeah.
Well, we've been putting it in smoothies that you've been having, like hiding it in there. And then yesterday we had the turmeric coconut milk shot with the papaya seeds as well. Yeah, with this.
With that powder.
Yeah.
Because how much regular turmeric would you need?
I would do like a shot glass of this every morning.
You were just adding it into your dishes.
Just turmeric.
Massive amounts, like
The root
cups.
itself.
The root itself, yeah.
Oh, the root itself.
Or the powdered form of the root itself.
Yeah, you can do all that. You can do it in your dishes, like tablespoon or whatever. That's more for culinary effect. This is like a really medicinal, like a real true medicinal way of doing it. But yeah, it's still going to be good for you. It's still going to have some of those really great properties for sure. Yes.
And it has the black pepper.
And it has the black pepper, which activates those compounds as well. So those compounds have to be activated and they have to be transported. So some people may be thinking, well, why is it so complicated? Nature's simple, right? Wrong. That is a misconception. Again, nature is not simple. Nature is sophisticated. Nature is very sophisticated. It's not complicated. It's sophisticated. It's clever. Remember what I said the other day about nature doesn't just give away its secrets voluntarily for free? It requires an alchemical, like scientific kind of exploration to some extent, right? You have to give it some thought, right? To see how things actually work. So this is a great example of that. And so what they use is what's called a liposomal delivery system, which is a lipid. It's a fat delivery system.